Hello, good morning. I'm Chris Shelton coming to you live from mostly rainy San Jose, California. If you've been paying attention to our YouTube Live and our Facebook Live posts that we've been doing every week, I've been giving you guys the weather and letting our audience know as well as to where we are. So we're still in NorCal and enjoying this beautiful rainy day. And just a little recap. This month, what we're doing is we're talking about food. Last week, I began by talking about the meat we eat, and I was a butcher for 21 years, and so being in that industry, I saw a lot of stuff. And so, just as a recap, if you are a meat eater, then what you want to do is you just want to pay attention to how the animals are taken care of and how they're raised, because the humane processing of animals is of utmost importance, because what kind of stress that they're going through at the time of slaughter, then you put inside your body. So you really want to make sure that you do your due diligence and you find or you do your homework and you find where the animals are being raised, how they're being raised, and it really does make a difference energetically, I believe, inside your body. I know some people don't think so. But yes, so if you do eat meat, and some people also, like I talked about last week, some people, their constitutions, they have to have it within their constitution. I believe in the vegan diet. I believe in the vegetarian diet. I think the paleo diet can be good as well. You know, it just depends on your constitution. We're all like snowflakes. We all need to know what we need for ourselves, not going with what is the fad or what seems to be cool. Because again, if you were to, let's say, take meat completely out of your diet, and all of a sudden you become depressed, you become blood deficient, your energy is low, then maybe that's not something you want to do. I know for myself, I find that I enjoy more vegetables and fruit and things like tofu or falafel. So if I'm going for a gyro or something like that, I want a falafel gyro as opposed to having lamb or something else. So for myself, I find that my body digests better eating less meat. But still, sometimes I listen to my body, and I know that my body needs a small amount of meat. But so again, making sure that you know how the animals are raised and how they're taken care of is really important, because what you're putting into your body energetically from another source. And we're going to be talking about fruits and vegetables today. This also includes our fruits and vegetables, and not just talking about animal products. And just as a recap, everything that we eat is a form of energy. So besides looking at the nutritional value of food and fruits and vegetables, and in general, grains, nuts, all that kind of stuff, what we want to do is we want to also look at what is the energetic properties of food. Okay, so last week, as a recap, I talked about beef as being neutral to warm in nature. I talked about fish. Lake water fish is neutral, whereas saltwater fish is cold in nature, and things like clams are cold in nature, and oysters are warm, and shrimp is hot. So each of these animal products also has an energetic property to it. Lamb is hot. We talk about how chickens energetically are hot, and if you think about it, chickens have to be hot because they produce so many eggs. And in order to produce that many eggs, you need to have heat in order to do that. So if you know your condition, if you know that something's going on, let's say if you have a lot of inflammation inside your body, then maybe you should be avoiding chicken. All right, and maybe you should be eating more saltwater fish, smaller fish, not the larger fish. And the reason why not the larger fish like shark and ahi is because the longer that the fish is swimming around in the ocean, the more chances it has to pick up mercury and those kinds of things. So you want to eat smaller fish. A great source of protein, quick protein, is sardines. At my office, when I'm back-to-back clients, I find that keeping cans of sardines in the back and some mouth rinse to rinse my mouth out after I get done eating them. But eating a can of sardines really helps to boost the healthy fats inside my body and gives me that energy jump that I need in order to continue to see my clients throughout the day. So again, just to recap from last week, the meat that we eat, everything is a form of energy. And last month we talked about relationships and the interactions of relationships and how that's a form of energy, how it affects our energy, how it affects our health. Now what we're doing is we're talking about food and how it affects our health. So the subject for this week is juice or not to juice. That is the big question. So, well, it depends. It's up to you. I tell people that you really should pay attention overall to your constitution. And you know what's interesting is that some people's constitutions thrive on the cold raw diet, But also you have to look at where you live. For example, if you live in Central America, you can maybe afford to have, or you live in like San Diego or somewhere where it tends to be warmer, you can maybe afford to have more of this raw diet because you need things that are cooling in nature to help to offset the amount of heat or the amount of dampness in the area. But when we look at fruits and vegetables and having this raw diet, they actually will say, well, if you eat too much raw, the clinical textbooks actually say, if you eat too much raw, it could actually bring on anger, right? And that's something that people don't pay attention to, is how the raw can actually change their moods. And the physiology-wise, what's happening is that, our bodies operate at about 98.5 degrees. And for most people anyways. And so if you take something from the refrigerator and you were to stick that into your stomach, on average, what you're pulling from the refrigerator is on average 54 or 55 degrees. When you go to stick that into your stomach, guess what? Your body has to heat it up to 98.5 degrees to assimilate it, which creates inflammation. That darn liver, which is affected by the emotions of anger, frustration, rage, and resentment, then rests on top of the stomach. And one of the big things that the liver does, besides aiding in digestion, is it also helps to move liver blood as well too. So if you think about it, if this cold actually penetrates through the stomach into the liver itself, then it actually will bind the blood of the liver. This will stir up the anger inside the person. So if you find all of a sudden, like, hey, I just read this diet in Men's Health magazine or some other magazine, or I was on the Today Show, I saw this new diet and it was saying to eat cold and raw, and you find that you are becoming depressed, you find that you are becoming more agitated, it's actually a warning sign that diet may not be the right diet for you. Okay, so when you do put something in your body that's cold, guess what that does? When your stomach has to heat it up, it actually creates inflammation. So there's so much talk nowadays about inflammation, and I'm hearing more and more diagnoses of Lyme and RA and those kinds of things. And for me in my world, the diet plays a big role in it when we're looking at those kinds of conditions, and when we're looking at parasites or whatnot inside the body, but also what is our emotional state like. Now, besides having raw can actually increase the anger inside the body, what it does for some people is that it actually injures our center, which is our spleen, stomach, and our pancreas. And when that happens, then our life force, which is also referred to as our Jing, is not being able to be produced the way it should be. Okay, so your stomach is considered your post-heaven essence, your kidneys and your adrenal system is considered your pre-heaven essence. Your pre-heaven essence is what you derive from your parents, God, and nature at the time of conception. And it's like a battery. Everybody has a different size battery. And so just like a battery, as you age, then what happens is this battery naturally declines. That's why practices like Qigong that are on our YouTube channel are so good and beneficial, because it actually it doesn't stop the aging process, but it actually helps us slow down the depletion of our Jing. So some of the ways that our Jing is actually depleted is by burning the candles at both ends. So if you work here in Silicon Valley, I'm pretty sure you can relate to that. Burning the candles at both ends, doing improper lifestyle habits, too much drinking, drugs, fatty foods, sugar, those kinds of things. Believe it or not, they actually say too much sex, and we'll get into that on a later subject. And also too, really important is the food that we put into our body. So if our system is not set up to handle the cold and the raw, then that post-heaven can't feed back to the pre-heaven. So it actually injures this life force energy. So with that said, for those of you that like the raw diet, I always say that, what you have to go with is you have to go with foods that are non-GMO. You have to eat foods that are locally grown, and you have to eat foods that are in season. I'll give you an example. Watermelons are a summer fruit. Why are they a summer fruit? Because if you go to the Center for Disease Control's website, you will see the most heart attacks happen in the summer months. Why? Because summer heat actually will affect the heart, and things like cherries and watermelon that are actually found in artichokes that are actually found naturally in the summer are energetically cooling. Why are they energetically cooling? They're energetically cooling because God, the all-knowing nature, whatever, Mother Nature, universe, whatever you want to call it, is wise enough to know that during certain times of the year, during certain seasons, certain organs are more prone to disease. So that's why watermelons are present during the summer months naturally, is to cool down that summer heat. Now, if you're eating watermelon in the winter months, I could go to a number of healthy grocery stores in the area, and you see that they have watermelon pre-cut up for you and such. And energetically speaking, it's not correct. And especially if it's cold, wet, and rainy outside, if the food that you're eating is energetically cold and the weather outside is cold, that outside environment is not much different than your inside environment. So you really have to pay attention. Now, true, if your constitution is strong and you have no severe illnesses or anything like that, chances of you actually seeing the side effects of eating watermelon in a negative way in the winter months is probably nil to none. Let's just be real about it. But I'm just saying that if you want to flow in accordance with nature, then you want to pay attention to the foods that are naturally harvested in your area, because different areas around the planet produce different foods because they have different climates, and your body needs different things in order to survive that climate. So buying salads or buying fruits and vegetables and your leafy greens or whatnot and your root vegetables, always try to buy non-GMO. And the other thing about buying the non-GMO too is that sometimes as a result of it, a lot of times I've seen the fruits and vegetables that I get are actually already washed. But when you do buy non-GMO, then what happens is you actually increase the possibility for unwanted microorganisms and parasites. So that can be dangerous as well too. So just besides the raw part for some people's constitution, these microorganisms that get into our body could also injure us as well too. Just a few months ago, there was a big outbreak of, I believe it was salmonella with romaine lettuce. That's a fine example of that. So one simple remedy in order to be able to offset and wash these root vegetables, these leafy greens and fruits and such, is to take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar per 1 gallon of water, and what you do is you soak your vegetables or raw vegetables and fruit in that gallon of water for 15 minutes and then rinse off. So that's a safe method. There are other methods as well too, like using hydrogen peroxide and bleaching, but I would go online and actually really look at those recipes. I'm not going to say them here today. So the apple cider vinegar is relatively safe for most people. So, well, Chris, some of the people ask me, well, Chris, what should I be doing then? And I say, well, listen to your body. During the summer months, having the raw vegetables, the nice thing about the leafy greens is that these leafy greens actually help to detoxify the body. And there's some things that we want to do. For example, like celery juice. I'm hearing so much talk about celery juice. And one of the big things about celery juice is it actually helps to purge the liver of toxins as well as heavy metals inside the body. Another common thing too would be to take, this is one of my favorite ones, is a ginger shot. But ginger, cayenne, and lemon juice mixed together. And you know what, and also you could add turmeric, and guess what? You can actually feel the warmth. That's also a natural anti-inflammatory for inside the body. So if you're somebody who has RA, or if you're somebody that has any type of like fibro or something like that, these inflammatory diseases, then having a ginger shot a day. Don't go crazy and have like 4 or 5 or 6 ginger shots a day, because then that's too much. But having a ginger shot a day or even a ginger shot with just the turmeric is really good for you as well. Let's say another fruit that's really good. If you're somebody who has chronic phlegm, chronic sinus issues, phlegm in the stool. And how can you tell if you have phlegm in your stool? Well, if you look at your stool after you have a bowel movement and you see that it seems mucousy, that's considered phlegm. Well, one of the simple remedy to do, well, number one, first and foremost, is to avoid all sugars and processed foods and greasy, fatty, fried foods. But pineapple is really good to pull the phlegm out of the body, especially the whole. So you get a whole pineapple, cut it up, and eat a few chunks of that. And what happens is that the pineapple actually grabs the phlegm, and then as you eliminate and have the bowel movement either later on that day or the next morning, then actually will help to pull this phlegm out of the body. So some simple tools in order to be able to remedy different conditions, and there's much more that you could do. Now, for myself, I believe in blanching my vegetables because, quite honestly, the nutrients that are found inside a lot of vegetables are not released until the vegetable is blanched. I'll give you an example. Lycopene is actually found in tomatoes. What is lycopene? Lycopene is an anti-cancer fighting agent. But lycopene is not released from that tomato until you blanch it. And what do we mean by blanch? I mean by 2 to 3 minutes. That's it. And especially with leafy greens, you can definitely tell, like kale or spinach, for example. But if you saute it or stir fry with it, when it turns lightly green or bright green, then you know that that vegetable is done. And it seriously only takes 2 to 3 minutes. Any more than that, then you actually kill the nutrients in the vegetable, and it's pretty much a waste. So you don't want to kill the vegetable, but you want to bring forth all the possible nutrients that you could get, that you could bring about from those leafy greens or those vegetables. And if you think about it too, if you are going to have the raw diet, having something in your stomach first that is warm is of utmost importance. So I talked about this last week. One of the things you could actually do before you have a cup of coffee or before you have tea is actually start off your morning with a small 4-ounce glass of hot water and a whole lemon or a whole lime. I myself like to actually put a half a teaspoon of coconut oil in my hot water and lemon juice. And the reason for that is because coconut oil actually helps to break down the cholesterol inside your body. And we're not just talking about cholesterol inside your arteries, but we're also talking about cholesterol that shows up as kidney stones and gallstones. So it creates for a gentle cleanse. When you actually put that hot water and lemon juice into the body on an empty stomach, you actually kickstart the liver and the gallbladder to aid in digestion for the today. Like, okay, we're awake now, let's start dumping bile into the stomach, let's start warming things up so that way we can start to assimilate for the day. The other thing too is being able to have your biggest meal in the morning between 7 and 11 a.m. because this is when your stomach and spleen are most active. And then as the day goes on, then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and have your meals smaller and smaller. So again, just as we come up to a close here, just to wrap things up, to juice or not to juice is really based upon your constitution. I know for myself, I listen to my body. There's certain juices that I really crave. Like I crave carrot, beet, and kale juice. For some reason, that is delicious. There's just something about it that's just so delicious. It's detoxifying. It actually helps to build the oxygen, the nitric oxide inside the blood. And it's really good for your stomach, spleen, and pancreas. Good for your liver system, your gallbladder system, and also good for your kidney network as well. So it's something that I listen to. I listen to what my body needs. I know that if I'm feeling, for example, if you are somebody who's suffering from Meniere disease, and the Meniere disease is actually chronic vertigo. If you have this chronic vertigo, then what you want to do is you actually want to eat things like pears, raisins, dates, seaweed. Seaweed is also really good, and kelp granules are really good also for your thyroid. Okay, but pears, the great thing about pears, and especially the Bosch pears, the brown pears, those pears are really good to help with dizziness, believe it or not, because what it does is a lot of times when we have Meniere disease or we have chronic vertigo, then what happens is that the actual kidney system, and it could also be the liver network as well too, there's a deficiency. In particular, there's a deficiency of yin in the body. And pears, and I found the Bosch pears are actually the best the best pears in order to be able to help to combat this kidney deficiency. And so the kidneys themselves, they actually work in conjunction with the ears. And in fact, in utero, and you can look this up and do research, in utero, when the fetus is forming, as the kidneys grow, the ears grow at the same time. So there is a direct connection between your kidney network and the ears. And so eating something like pears, tofu, raisins, dates, seaweed, cooking with kelp granules could actually help to offset the side effects of Meniere's disease, which, by the way, is normally a stress-induced disease. And if you're somebody that had any type of febrile type disease, then you'll want to, and you have these symptoms come up, instead of doing the medication, because all the medication does is it just masks the symptoms, instead of doing the medication, then try adding these fresh fruits into your diet. And I know from experiences years ago, when I first finished my first 4 years of studying Chinese medicine, I thought I knew my stuff. I got sick with a horrible flu bug that almost killed me. I was sick for almost a year. And at the end of it, it was finally Chinese medicine that did fix me. And it was almost like God or the universe said, okay, smarty pants, you think you know so much. We're going to zap you with this. Let's see if you can fix yourself. Well, as a result of that flu bug, then what happened was that I ended up with Meniere's disease, or what is classified as Meniere's disease. And so I can tell you that that these fruits actually help to help to restore natural balance and equilibrium inside my body. And so, and actually help to tonify the yin inside the body. So what else can we do in order to strengthen our stomachs? So food-wise, energetically, also understanding the properties of food. There's books, Paul Pitchford has a book called Healing with Whole Foods. And what's funny is you can probably buy it at Whole Foods, but you can also order it on Amazon. And anyways, the Paul Pitchford's book, he's talking about Ayurvedic recipes. He's talking about Chinese medicine recipes or Chinese nutrition recipes. And what he's done is that he's taking all these different recipes, talking about their energetic properties and their nutrient values of food. And so that way the reader has a deeper understanding that food is medicine, not just food. So that's a great book. And so if you're somebody that, for example, has night sweats or hot flashes, or if you're somebody who craves ice cold drinks and is drinking ice cold drinks, then what happens is that that's actually the body's way of knocking on your back door saying, listen to me, we need something cooling here. And it's not cooling like ice cold drinks, because if you think about it, if you drink something ice cold, what is the first thing? First, you may for a few seconds have that initial satisfaction of feeling cooled down, but if you sit there and pay attention to your body, you actually will feel your body heat up. Okay, so what you're doing by putting the ice cold drinks into your body is you're actually giving yourself, creating more heat inside the body. So what can you do? One simple remedy is for example, is like drink mint tea or mint water. Energetically speaking, mint is cooling by nature, whereas ginger is warming by nature. So if you're somebody who's cold all the time, maybe you don't want to drink mint tea or mint water. Maybe you're somebody who wants to drink ginger tea, or like I said, do the ginger shot with the cayenne and the turmeric. Okay, so listen to your body. Some simple remedies, and Paul Pitchford's book is a really, really, I would say, a complete book on not only the recipes, the nutrient values of foods, but also, more importantly, the energetic properties of food. Because it's interesting. I hear people going to other practitioners and they have floaters in their eyes or whatnot, and they do a web search, and then it comes back, well, floaters means that you have yeast inside your body. Well, in my world, it means that your liver is just really ticked off at you because you're probably too ticked off, and so I'll recommend to people, like, okay, well, you have these floaters. One of the things I want you to do is I want you to eat more yams or sweet potatoes in order to tonify your spleen and your pancreas, in order to offset this overacting of the liver onto the stomach, spleen, and the pancreas. And some practitioners out there, they're basing their knowledge only on what the calories or what the nutrients is, will say, oh no, sweet potatoes and yams actually create more yeast inside the body. And I'm here to say, no, it doesn't. It actually helps to offset it. And especially if you look at the energetic properties of the food, what organ it satisfies. Like last week, we were talking about all the different types of meat. And sure, something like seafood will benefit the kidneys, but all meat in general benefits your spleen, stomach, and pancreas, right? So the seafood also will benefit your spleen and stomach as well, but the kidney network. So all foods have an energetic property and benefit different food energetically. Like I talked a couple of minutes ago about lemon and limes. Those benefit, the sour flavor actually benefits the liver. So using that, ginger actually benefits your stomach. Pungent foods like onions and garlics and leeks actually help to benefit your lungs and your colon and your skin. Bitter foods actually help to benefit your heart in moderate amounts. So understanding that these foods are all energy based, and not only are they energy based naturally, but how they are raised. And I'm sorry, if a food is genetically modified, as soon as you take something out of its norm, I'm sorry, it's not the same energetically. So understanding how the fruits and vegetables, where they are raised, are they organic? Go to your local farmer's market, buy what's in season, and really enjoy what's there, because this is what your body needs. Now, a couple of Qigong practices that we could go ahead and do is the spleen move. And the spleen move, now there's a couple ways to do it. One way, we can start off by pulling down the heavens 1 time or 3 times. Inhale and exhale. And then from there, you're going to imagine that the fingers become like long hollow straws that enter down deep into the ground. And then you're going to lift the hands up, making a little triangle here. Looking, finding a fixed position on the ceiling, or if you're outside in the sky. You're going to inhale in the center, exhale as I turn. Inhale, exhale as I turn. Now our spleen's located on the left side of the body. So as I turn like this, almost like you're wringing out the organ. The color yellow and orange is also has to do with the stomach and spleen and pancreas. So you can imagine a yellow or orange cloud filling up into the stomach and spleen as you inhale. Then as you exhale, the negative emotions that actually affect the stomach and the spleen are the negative emotions of worry, over-intellectualizing, and thinking too much, okay? When we let go of the worry, then the positive virtue of peace of mind and centeredness actually come into play. If you find that your shoulders get too tired from doing it that way, then you could actually shift and fold like you're holding a beach ball. I'm going to look at the palm. Again, same idea. I'm wringing out this, tonifying the spleen and stomach, and also I'm using my legs as a pump to pump the blood and the chi up to the what is called is our middle burner. So I'm going in, pulling into our middle burner. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Again, as you inhale, imagine a yellow cloud filling up into the middle burner, into the stomach and spleen. And then as you exhale, releasing out the negative emotion of worry, pensiveness, anxiety. Okay, and then we're going to finish by pulling down the heavens 3 times. Okay, now when we do this practice, if you find that you tend to have other emotions like anxiety, besides thinking or worrying too much, another practice you could do too is actually the healing sound for the spleen. So if you're driving or if you're somewhere where you can't actually, do this movement, then actually the healing sounds are very powerful. And the healing sound for the stomach and the spleen and the pancreas is that the healing sound of who, like H-U-U, who. So what you do is you would inhale, pulling the breath into the left side of the body. You could actually place your hands there, unless you're driving. Place your hands there. As you inhale, imagine this yellow cloud filling up into the left side of the body, focusing on the emotions of anxiety, worry, or intellectualizing. And then as you exhale, inhaling, and inhaling. Allow the worry and the over-intellectualizing to leave like a dark cloud. If you're in public, you can actually do the sound underneath your breath. Inhale. And the same thing, imagine that negative emotion leaving like a dark cloud going several feet away from the body and deep into the ground. So it's a simple practice to do. You can take it with you anywhere. And when we're looking at digestion, our digestive system and elimination, proper elimination, a lot of this, comes back has to do with our emotions. And worry and anxiety and pensiveness, over-intellectualizing tends to knot the chi in the middle burner, and so we want to disperse that. Okay, so just to wrap up here, whether to juice or not to juice, that's really up to you and your constitution. I really believe that you have to listen to what your body is telling you. If your body is telling you that you do better on the cold raw diet, like that it gives you more energy, then by all means go after that cold raw diet. But if you are starting to introduce cold into your body and all of a sudden you notice that you're getting agitated, you're starting to have menstrual problems, which is considered a disease in Chinese medicine, you're becoming depressed, you're actually gaining more weight, then just maybe that cold raw diet isn't for you. Ultimately though, in Ayurvedic medicine and in Chinese medicine, they both agree that having the warm foods is actually more beneficial for your body because it decreases inflammation and allows for your stomach to work even more easily as opposed to having to work harder in order to assimilate. Now we talked about different remedies as far as like the ginger, turmeric, and cayenne, for example. I talked about the pineapple. I talked about celery juice. I talked about the energetic differences between mint water as opposed to ginger tea. Gave you a remedy if you are eating cold or raw, non-GMO, of how to simply wash the vegetables of parasites and unwanted microorganisms by simply taking 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar per 1 gallon of water, soaking your vegetables in there. Give you a couple of Qigong practices as well too. The Qigong practice for the spleen, there's 2 ways of doing the movement, this way here or this way here, and then also the healing sound. And just as a reminder from last week, always be mindful while you're eating. So no matter what it is that you're putting into your stomach, put it into your body, be aware of what it is that you're eating. Slow down, sit down, chew your food, and be in the moment. So for more information, check out our YouTube page. We have tons of Qigong practices, all kinds of information on there. And if you think you want to become a Qigong teacher, we have an online Qigong teacher training program. Level 1 is 13 weeks. Check us out on the link down below. And so until next week, when we continue our discussion on foods and the foods that we eat, my name is Chris Shelton from, now it's stopped raining in San Jose, California. Until next time, say la chi.